Hello, stranger.
Hello, I didn't think it was going to work then. We're going to come on.
I know. I thought we start season 2 and it's not. I thought the music lagged a bit as well. I think the music's still on holiday, Chris. What do you think?
Well, it could be. Could well be.
Can I blame you because you're the tech guy?
You blame me anyway, so.
I know, I will. I will. Anyway, welcome. We're back with season 2 of Open Minds. It seems like we've been away forever, doesn't it? It's been about 5 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah. I
mean, I'm sure I must have died. Huh?
It's been a long time.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure I must have died about 5 or 6 times and come back. It feels like it.
I thought you already dead. What?
What did you say?
So I thought you were already dead, Gloria. You know.
I could be dead, couldn't I? And this could be the film, The Sixth Sense. And
well, that's it.
You and Cheryl were talking to me to try to let me know that, Gloria, it's over. Do you know what I mean? Oh, thank God for that. That's all I can say. So, welcome back, everybody. Yes, we are back to season 2 Open Minds. We have some amazing guests coming weekly, and we will start today with an amazing lady. I've got my auto cue ready here. You know me, I can't remember anything. I have to tell the truth, Chris, don't I? Guys, most of you would know that I went to a barbecue yesterday and got slightly abbreviated, slightly. So if I slur or, not often, it's just that I'm not on top part today, and I'm never going to drink again. Ever, obviously.
I was a good boy for a change. I've been a good boy, so there you go.
You have, actually. And normally it's you down the pub every week getting hammered, isn't it, actually? Too much information. Right, should we try and be professional now, Chris?
Yeah, sorry, yeah, go on.
We don't want to be professional. We just want to be normal and have a conversation with Cheryl. Right, here we go. My auto cue. We are honoured today, and I mean honoured, guys. Wait till you hear what she's got to say. Cheryl is a native and resident of the upstate New York who saw her first UFO at the age of 12. She's a military veteran. She's a retired information security professional from the aerospace industry. She's been a speaker at the International UFO Congress and at MUFON. Besides being a journalist, she's also a publishing playwright. I've read part of her play. Awesome. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from the State University of New York. This is a show that must not be missed. Okay, Chris, let's Cheryl out the naughty room. I read my auto cue. Let her out.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Cheryl. Welcome to Open Minds.
Thanks for joining us.
The oneness in me greets and loves and honors the oneness in you.
Back at you. That's all I can say. I can't talk too much tonight. Right, so where do we begin? We have a lot to get through, and you have a lot to share with the UK audience. Okay. Please listen in, because there's so much information that's going to come out. You have to watch this program maybe 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
But to start with, Cheryl, as me and Chris always ask our guests, you know, your spiritual journey has led you to where you are now. Where did that begin? Where did that start? What age?
The spiritual journey started in Catholic school when I was 6, 7 years old. You know, let's get the sticky stuff out of the way. I was raised a good Catholic boy. Grew up aspired to grow up to be a good healthy woman. So that's my story there. As far as UFOs are concerned, let's go back to the spiritual for a minute. Clairvoyance runs down my mother's side of the family, and North African shamanism runs down my dad's side. So needless to say, the 3 Costa kids got a double whammy of the paranormal stuff, whether they wanted it or not, you know. And I was the only one of the 3 of us that developed mine. So needless to say, all through grade school, I was the strange ranger as far as the Catholic nuns were concerned. And they were terribly afraid of me because I knew what was coming down the path 2, 3, 4 days a week in advance, you know, and they were always very paranoid about being around me. My first UFOs when I was 12. It was a late August afternoon. I was with my parents. We were coming back from an uncle's house. It was a couple of weeks before school started up again, and my mother had my dad pull the car off the road for a moment, and she pointed out into the western sky, clear blue sky, not a cloud in the sky, and there's this silver ball parked out there like a rock. And give you an idea how big it is. If you hold your arm out and look at your little fingernail, that's about how big it was from a perspective standpoint.
I'm doing it. Okay.
And so my mom, our space agency was only about 6, 7 years old at the time. So she said it could be them, it could be the Air Force, it could be a weather balloon. And then she looked at me and she says, you know, it might be people from another world. Of course, that fascinated the 12-year-old, and we talked about that. Got back on the road, got down to the bottom of the hill, turned left to head back to the hometown. We had a Chevy Impala in those days, big black Chevy Impala, and the window in the back and those things was huge. So I got up in the back window. Who are you guys? Who are you guys? You know. And when that thing decided to leave, I didn't see an effect like this until like maybe this was 1965. I didn't see an effect like this until the 90s. With one of the starships going boom, you know, as they took off, kind of thing. And that changed me. And I said, oh my goodness, this is real. So, you know, mom and dad are stupid when you're a teenager, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, they're always stupid. Yeah.
And so mom and I, one thing we disagree on a lot. Hell, I'm disowned and disinherited, for God's sakes. I can still have a conversation with her about UFOs. Okay. And so that topic became something in high school. We got books in the library. We'd share them with each other. When Eric Von Daniken's book came out, she was dog-earing on the top pages. I was dog-earing on the bottom pages, and that type of thing. And that was our relationship through high school. And then I went in the military, and, to excuse the expression, got as far away from my parents as I could.
We all did that, Cheryl. We all did that.
Texas wasn't far enough, so I volunteered for Vietnam and put myself 14,000 miles from them.
Yeah,
yes, I did. I did volunteer.
Yeah. Wow. Go on. Come on, go on.
Pretty much. Now, when I was in Vietnam, I had already left the Catholic Church when I was 17. The clairvoyant side of me said what they're teaching is baloney. Okay, it's a fantasy. Everything they talk about, that is not what I see going on around me. Okay, I'll give us an example that we had one of the guys in school when you're about second grade. His dad had an appendicitis burst and he died. Okay, and a couple weeks later, one of the girls in school asked the nun, so what happened to Stevie's dad after he died? And the nun said, well, he's in heaven with God. And I'm looking over and seeing him sitting on the radiator, smiling at his son, going, so it was this kind of stuff. And like I said, I always told my friends, I said, believe me, I see a much bigger world than you do, you know?
Yeah.
And I see a lot of creepy stuff and a lot of fun stuff, but I see a lot of creepy stuff too. So, and I had an aunt pretty much had opened up her real. We used the term elastic reality, okay, and we had both opened up our reality to accommodate this stuff, and we were never. The way I used to tell it to my friends is that I am never alone, ever.
Yeah, I mean, Chris. I mean, I'm a medium, but I don't practice anymore. Chris still is a medium, but practices. That come out wrong. It's called alcohol from yesterday. So, Chris, you know what it's like, never being alone in the world. We understand that, don't we?
You're never alone, no.
Never alone.
Never alone. No.
It's there's always somebody there. So we've built it up because we really want to get to the UFOs. But we don't want to miss, because I think it's all part and parcel and critical to the experience and where you took it. So did you join the military after? Aerospace after the military? Did you come out?
Okay. I was in the Air Force for 2 years, served in Vietnam.
Yeah.
My hometown got wiped out in a flood. So I was in Korea. I'd come out of Vietnam. I had volunteered for a second overseas tour, and I was in Korea. And I turned on the radio one morning, and they said, Governor Rockefeller has sent troops into Corning and Elmira. I was from Corning. And I got a bus into the base from where I was out in the sticks of South Korea, and opened up Stars and Stripes. And there's a aerial photograph of my hometown's traffic circle, 3/4 submerged underwater, and going, oh my goodness, you know. And it was like one of the higher points in the valley. I'm going, oh, this is not good. So I got sent home on emergency leave, and I helped my parents get dug out, and I got an honorable what they call hardship discharge. And it was easy for me to get because I had served in Vietnam, so it was easy for me to get that kind of a thing. And I got out and helped them. And 2 years later, I signed up and went in the Navy. Because the Air Force wouldn't take me back because they were trying to get people to quit. Okay. And they were throwing people out because they were reducing their force. And as I was coming out of the recruiter's office, all upset and dejected, the Navy recruiter said, come here, kid, I got a deal for you, you know? And because of my previous service, hell, I had more medals than this guy did, you know? And the guy looked at me, he says, we can get you like a 2-year package of school, high-tech stuff. And I said, do it. Let's do it, you know, which is what I did. And I served in nuclear submarines. And awesome. And I did very high tech stuff in nuclear submarines. So that was where I got exposed in nuclear submarines, where I got exposed to Gardnerian witchcraft, which is
as you do.
It's just a normal.
You know, Chris, let's go off in a nuclear submarine, and you go. I told you this was going to be fascinating, Chris. Go on, Cheryl.
Okay. I was on board maybe about 3 weeks. And in fact, I had to pick them up in Firth of Clyde, up in Dunoon, Scotland. Okay, because they had just come back from a mission, and they flew about 20 of us over who were replacements, right? And so we were up there for about 2 weeks. So while we were up there, I noticed one of the cooks. He wore his pentacle right up real close to his neck. Okay. And I said, and I made the faux pas saying, are you a Satanist? And he came right down my throat. No, I'm Wiccan. You know? So I bought a couple of days later, I bought a can of soda out of the machine we have on board the ship. And I took it down to the laundry room because he was a cook and a steward, senior steward. So he was doing the officer's laundry. So I went into the laundry room, and you could only hear us talk because the machinery noise around us kind of gave you a little envelope of silence, as they say. And I went in and I said, I want to apologize to you. I didn't mean to call you a Satanist. I didn't understand the Wicca term. I'm interested. Would you please talk to me? And I gave him a can of soda as an offering, right? You know, so him and I started having conversations every time he was scheduled to do laundry. He'd make sure I knew. And if I was off duty on the ship, I would come down and we'd talk. And about a year later, I was initiated by very secretively by about another 7 or 8 members of the crew. In fact, we held the ceremony in the forward diesel space, closed the hatch. There were 8 of us with our arms around the sacred diesel, as they say. A little statue of the goddess sitting up on one of the tool shelves. And let's see, my sacred bath was a cup of fresh water poured over my head, and cakes and ale was a grape knee high and a muffin we snagged from the galley.
I mean, you've been on some adventures.
Oh yeah.
I mean, right. Okay. There's so much. I'm just trying to jump ahead here. So then you was in the Navy. What happened? Was it then aerospace?
Okay. When I got out of the Navy, my skills were pretty much in demand. I went to work for a microwave company for about 6 months. And then I got an application I'd put in with, at that time was IBM Military Products or Federal Systems. They got bought by Lockheed. So technically I've been in Lockheed 32 years. And I went to work for them. And that was the beginning of a 32-year career. Initially, I was testing sub-assemblies for submarine parts, because I was a submarine person. And then somebody figured out I was finishing school. I was finishing film school at night. I was working third shift, and I was going to film school in the daytime. Some executive heard about this and came into my office test area one day and says, could you make industrial movies? And I said, yeah, I guess. I said, so for the next 6 years, I'm making training films and industrial films and that kind of thing. Yeah. And then I got outed as a trans person. My board persona got outed as a trans person, and my manager was very kind to give me a transfer down to Virginia, to Washington, D.C. area. And I spent the rest of my career pretty much down in that area, servicing. Eventually, I was in IT, so I was servicing the headquarters squadron and everything. And when I became a Buddhist nun, I went to work every day dressed like the Dalai Lama, the buzz cut, the whole works, And
you're fearless. You are. You're fearless.
We pushed me and one other gal, both worked for Lockheed. We were members of the same monastery, and we pushed the diversity policy to the bleeding edge.
I bet. I mean, obviously, come on. I'm loving it. I've got to come in now and say
please,
taking from that.
When did I start writing about UFOs?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're psychic. You must be a medium, darling.
Wait a minute. Let's go back a little bit. No, let's go back a little bit. Yeah. I'd been with the company 20 years. Okay. And I was in the DC area. Back in the day, we didn't have like the YouTube stuff. We had cable access where there was a station downtown that did nothing but air locally generated programming. Okay. Yeah. And they taught you how to use the equipment and all that stuff. And I pitched to the program or president of this group, I pitched the idea of doing a show about witches by witches for the pagan community, more or less. And the most she would give me is a 6-episode contract. Okay, fine. I could have stomped out, but I said, no, be humble about this. Do it. Signed the contract for the 6 episodes. It was going to be a summer replacement. So I said, fine, I'll get them all. I'll shoot them in the spring. We'll get them all in the can and that'll be it. Right. Well, I get a call one day in May. Okay. We've already got 4 of the 6 shows taped. Actually, we had all the shows taped, come to think of it. And I get a call. A lady came to my door. At the time, I did not have a telephone. I had only just moved into this particular house I was renting. And a lady came and knocked on my door and says, you don't know me, but I went to high school with Joe so-and-so, and he's the senior producer at Channel 33 in Arlington. I said, yeah, I know him. He says, well, he called me and asked me to knock on your door. Can you please call the station? Something's happened. I thought, oh my God, the place burnt down or something, So I got my phone card out, walked down to the convenience store and called him on the payphone. And I says, what's going on? He says, hey, a 300-word story went out on the Associated Press this afternoon about your witchcraft television program. I said, it did? He says, yeah, very informed. Everything was right. And I said, okay, did we get some press ink? And he says, no, Cheryl. And then he says, no, Cheryl, ABC and CBS News are sitting in the lobby and they want to talk to the witches.
Wow.
Okay. So I got on the phone with them, and they couldn't. The CBS people were on a really tight deadline. Says, "Can we talk to you tomorrow? Maybe meet you in the park up by where you work." I said, "Sure, let's do that." ABC said, "We can drive across town to you," because it was a 45-minute drive to get down there on a Sunday afternoon. But during the workday at 6 o'clock rush hour, it's a 2-hour drive with traffic.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we did was they drove straight across DC through one of the local highways, came over, and I met them in a subway stations above ground subway stations parking lot with the host of the show. And we met them out there. They had their TV lights up. It was about sunset, and they interviewed each of us individually. That night, about 11:35 on the evening, on this 11 o'clock news, they aired this 7-minute piece about our television program. The next morning I get to work, and my boss is sitting on my desk. And I said, "Hi, what are you doing on my desk?" He says, "Last night, a show about witchcraft showed on a story about witchcraft showed up on the evening news or the late night news, and at 7:35. I said, "Okay." And he says, "The general manager called me at 8:40 or 12:45 or 11:45. He says he wants to know what the hell's going on. He knows you work for me." So I says, "Okay, well," he says, "What, you're afraid I'm going to mention the company?" And he says, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Are you buying advertising on my company, on my show?" "No." "And then I won't be talking about you. Period." And we figured that was that. Well, we ended up on Larry King about 2 weeks later. Entertainment Tonight did a piece on us. We had Channel I think it was a UK Channel 4 came and talked to us. French channel came and talked to us. 2 channels in Italy came to us. Japanese, Italy, everybody in the free world's in DC. So like everybody got a story in about us, including the magazines. We even caused a riot in Rome, which is really cool. I'll tell you about that later. But the bottom line was, at the end of like the first, our show debuted on the 6th of June, 1991. On the 7th of June, the president of the channel called me and says, we need to talk. I thought, okay, that's it. We've had one show run. They're not going to run anymore. I walk in. She puts 2 pieces of paper in front of me. I said, "Sign this." I said, "Is this a lawsuit or something?" He says, "No, 2 13-week contracts."
Wow.
So all in all, we produced 70 episodes of the program over 2 years.
That's wonderful.
And nobody's ever mounted something of that scale since. It was a talk show.
See, Chris, you see what I'm saying? So when we get to the data crunching and what she does, you can see her whole life experience. She's fearless. She comes out and she does it and she succeeds. It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, was it 1991 you had another UFO experience? Was it around was it in the 90s? Did you have another one, or did I mishear that?
I've had one a year most of my adult life, so don't worry about it.
There you go.
They're not that remarkable. But the key thing you need to know about all of that, from a paranormal magic standpoint, people said, "Well, did you do magic to do a television show?" I said, "No, I'm a trained professional. I went to film school. I hired people to help me produce a show who had experience. We produced a high quality show."
Yeah.
The craft people leaned into me and says, "Did you do any magic on it?" "Well, me? Yes, I did." And they said, "Like what?" I says, "Well, in March, I did. It's a fertility ritual in March. So I did a fertility ritual that we would have lots of publicity raining down on that tiny little cable station." And that's exactly what happened. 88 interviews in a period of 6 months after that ritual. International media. Now, I got a phone call from a reporter at ABC News about October of that year. Says, "Hey, Cheryl, do you guys know that you caused a riot in Rome?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "You did 2 magazine articles for those people, right?" I says, "Yeah, they're equivalent to Look magazine, and they're equivalent to People." And he says, "Yeah, they hit the street the same week that Rome Channel 4 ran an after news magazine piece on you guys." And I remember when they had come to us, one of our tapings, and I said, "Oh my." He said, "Well, as soon as that piece got done airing in the evening news, supper time news, all these women started coming out of these high-rise apartments, in Rome, in the Rome suburbs, and started marching through the streets, chanting from what they told me is by the time they got to the front gates of the Vatican, they were 3,000 strong, screaming in Italian, "We are the witches, we have returned."
Oh God. You are so lucky you weren't burnt at the stake. You could, wow. You do cause havoc, Cheryl, wherever you go. And
that's part of it.
That's part of it.
You say I'm fearless. Okay, I take one posture. People have said to me, he says, "Aren't you afraid of this?" And I said, "Look, I'm a combat veteran. I went to test dep on a submarine. I've been through a sex change. What else you got?" I'm not scared of much, believe me.
Right. This is the part I'm waiting for, that we've led up to it. How did you and your wife, can you start where you started writing the weekly magazine about UFOs?
Okay.
Could you start?
Okay, I can start there. I was working for a large paper in town, newspaper. This was my encore career, so to speak, in the technical department. I was just finishing a degree on entertainment writing, and not exactly a pure journalist, okay, but entertainment writing, okay.
Yeah.
So one night, in fact, I remember the date. It was November 5th, 2012. There was a little sidebar story on CNN.com on the webpage, and it said, "UFOs have been declining since the 1980s. Maybe they were always just an urban legend." And I looked at it, and I was well read enough, not really out there in your face UFO person in those days. And I said, that sounds like misinformation. So I went out to the National UFO Reporting Center here in the United States, and I found a couple of back pages, got some year-end totals, dropped some numbers into a spreadsheet, and the thing went up like a rocket. And I said, what memo didn't the UFOs get?
Yeah.
They're not declining, In fact, they were going up, So so every night for about a week, part of our job was we had a 700-ton Swiss press was going to run the paper every night for the morning edition. So after we got the plates all done, which I was responsible for burning the plates. It's a big glorified inkjet printer, laser printer type of thing, and all that kind of stuff. Had to generate about 500 plates a night. And once the press ran, all we had to do was sit there for 2 hours and let the run finish, and then we'd go home. Okay, and this is about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I see this, I checked all this stuff out. So the next couple of nights, I start reading all these stories on the National UFO Reporting Center. And, I thought I'd see a lot of crazy stuff. No, it was very sincere people coming. My wife and I never believed in this stuff, but we were laying on the hood of the car the other night. We saw this stuff, and all of these reports were like that. We were out for a smoke. We saw I was walking the dog, having smoking a cigarette. Smokers and dog walkers are the predominant number of people who reliable sightings. They're out there day in, day out. So I wrote a couple of these longer narratives up. Most narratives for the UFO sighting end up being about one line, maybe two. Wow, we saw this, and that's it. Sometimes people would take the time to actually write a small essay. So I took a couple of them and punched them up. I did, newspapers, you got to know who, what, when, where, why. Couldn't tell you why, otherwise I'd be getting a Pulitzer and a Nobel Prize. And I can't tell you who, because the reporting services protect the identity of the person who reported. But I could tell you what, when, and where. As an entertainment writer, I went around pitching about 5 or 6 of these stories to some of these editors. I got thrown out of the office, escorted to the door by security. It was terrible. Finally, a little weekly paper in town called the Syracuse New Times editor used to know me over at the other big paper. And he was a retired senior copy editor. And he said, come on over, let's talk. I hear you pitching. So I went over and we talked for 20 minutes before he ever looked at my pitch. And he was very sympathetic to the topic matter, very knowledgeable, had sightings like I did as teenagers. So we were similar age. So he said, I'll try you out for a month. Now, have you guys ever seen The Princess Bride, the movie?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, there's a line in the thing from a Dread Pirate Roberts, I'll most likely kill you in the morning kind of thing, and he had that kind of a tone. We'll try you out for a month, So I figured, he calls me up a month later and he says, we need to talk. I figured, that's it. It's gone, 4 episodes up, and I get in, I come into the office. He's got the other columnist from the newspaper in there, and I walk in. He stops talking to him. I'm a little bit late, and he looks over. He points at me and says, "There's our rock star." I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "You're pulling more page views than all the columnists combined." And he says, "Just keep doing what you're doing." 6 months later, the digital editor who I was assigned to, because I was always technically a freelance, okay, but it was a weekly column, and people say, "Well, it must be fun to write a weekly column." Think of it in high school terms. This is a 500-word term paper every Thursday night.
No,
Yeah.
Okay. So we're in that situation. So digital editor comes to me about 4 or 5 months later and he says, "You've got a national audience," because it was on the online edition, and it was people were sharing the links in social media and things like that. Yeah. And then at the Christmas party, the digital editor and the publisher take me up in front of everybody at the Christmas party and says, "Cheryl's pulling an international audience." Not bad for a little weekly paper in upstate New York, And I wrote the column for 7 years, 238 articles over 7 years. And then the paper went under. The board of directors closed this down because, revenues were ad revenues were falling off to a critical point. So that's where it's been. Right now, I simply, as a journalist, I do a little bit of freelance writing around the edge because of this kind of stuff. I did an op-ed piece for a California newspaper a couple of months ago about UFOs. Okay.
Yeah.
And that type of thing. I'm getting ready to be, I can't get into detail, but I'm getting ready to be picked up by a national television series about UFOs. So, so that's where I sit right now with that topic matter. Our latest book is this. The
Pink Book.
The Pink Book, okay? UFO Sightings Desk Reference 2001 to 2020. Now, there was a predecessor. In 2017, we produced the 2001 to 2015. This one's 430 pages. The other one is a little over 350. We're already credited with one concussion with this book. Some wife hit her husband over the head with it. And it is charts, graphs. Let me warn you right now. It is not a read. It is charts, graphs.
It's data.
It's all the science. And
yes.
Now, Linda and I wrote that. Linda is my wife. And she's got the science degrees. Okay. She's a bona fide scientist. Me, I've got the top hat and the cane with the arts and entertainment degree. So she kept the disciplines to doing a good scientific document. And I'm the one who can go out in front of 5,000 people at a conference and talk on stage like I live there. Okay. Yeah. So and do these shows and things like this, Besides that, she would like me to tell you that the reason she's not helping me do this thing is that she does not know how to control her mouth.
A bit like me, actually.
She shoots from the hip with 2 machine guns. She really does.
Yeah. I mean, I'm subdued today, I'm telling you, due to alcohol. But Chris recognizes that, don't you, Chris? That's God. Yeah.
Okay, so the bottom line with this book is we came up here, we're strictly United States data. In 20 years, 2001 to 2020, 2 national reporting services, the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, and the National UFO Reporting Center, NUFORC. I used both of their data, cleaned them up, combined them, and we in the first book we had 121,000 sightings. In this book, 167,632 sightings for the United States, and we've got them ranked by state. We've got them ranked by county. 3,180 counties reported in, 18,662 postal codes. We call them zip codes. I know you guys call them postal codes. United States has 41,800 postal codes and 18,600, give or take, reported UFOs. And I'm actually able to plot national maps or state maps by zip code. And I've sent a couple of maps like this to some key politicians in Washington, because politicians like zip codes because their districts are defined by zip code boundaries. So one prominent guy, Senator Rubio, he's Senate select.
I've heard of him.
A lot of people have. He's the guy to put that bill in there, said the intelligence agency's got to come clean. And I sent him a copy of the book. And we have a very, very short letter, just a little bit of an executive summary, and said, if you guys have congressional hearings this year or next year, we're the civilian experts. Call us. We'll come and talk. And so the bottom line, and that's why the book is pink. See, we were already told that people came to us who were in Washington, the lobbyist guys and things, and we call them the usual suspects.
Yeah.
And they said, this is in 2020 during the lockdown. They said, we're probably going to have congressional hearings next year. Oh, really? He says, yeah. And in 50 years, you two women are the only two who have ever done the statistics of UFOs since Project Blue Book closed down.
Yeah.
So Linda and I talked about this. We could end up testifying before Congress since we were the go-to women for statistics on UFOs. So we decided, picture this, two old gay ladies, one of them a trans woman, sitting before a congressional committee talking about UFOs. We wanted people to know at home watching television that they were looking at our book when they were thumbing through it. So we decided to make it pink. You could flag in an aircraft with this thing, and you'll know it's our book that they're looking at.
I mean, Cheryl, I'm going to get in before Chris does. I'm just thinking, right, we just start. The amount of sightings that you've cited, I can see if I can word this question. You're giving a percentage. Have you worked out, say, for example, say in New York, I don't know your demographics there, but you'll understand me. Say in New York, you've got like 67,000 people there. Have you broken down the percentage of sightings, but then you could tell us how many thousands out of that witnessed? Does that make sense to you?
Okay. How many people report them and versus how many people see them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There were 2 polls done. I was never able to do this previously. The wisdom in the UFO community was 1 in 10. Okay. Well, okay, that works good if you're standing in front of a college audience and saying how many people have seen them, everybody's hands go up, how many people report them, and 10%, keep their arm up. Okay, in July of 2017, Fox Pictures had a poll done, and they came back with the same stats everybody else does. 30% believe, 45% are on the fence, 17% think it's all hogwash. Okay.
Yeah.
But they also asked another question in the poll: have you seen a UFO? And a little over 16% had said they did. Okay, I didn't know quite what to do with that number. Okay, it was a metric, but I didn't know if I could use it. And then 2 years later, in September of 2019, the Gallup poll organization did a similar poll. It had all the same specs, except they also confirmed that 16% number. Okay, adult people. So we went back and cranked through the numbers a couple of different ways and tried to reconcile it with the sightings. Okay, the actual sightings. And the adult population, the population at that time was 325 million. Okay, now 75% of that is the adult population. Okay, so we got a number down in the 254 million area. Okay, and then we worked that back against sightings. Now, that gave us a rough number. What we ended up doing is we took the population and the sightings for each individual state, all 50 states, and we plotted it. So we got a bell curve. Okay, on the low end, it was 1 in 150 people reported what they saw. On the high end, it was 1 in 450 people reported what they saw. And then the peak of the curve sat in the 200 to 280 range, and the top of it was 1 in 250 people reports what they see. And the number is how many people saw them. Okay, 167,632 times 250, and that gives us 41,900,000 people saw UFOs, but only 167,632 reported them.
I mean, come on, when you hear it like that, if you take off the percentage, did you hear that, guys? could you repeat how many people saw a UFO in?
Roughly 42 million people, adult people in the United States. Now, let's take a look at that from the experiencer side. Technically, that makes them experiencers. You do not see one of these things, try and rationally blow it away, and then you can't. Those are the people who say, I saw something that I could not explain, and it changes their reality and makes it a little bit more elastic. So technically, that's, people say to me, well, how many experiencers do you think there are? I said, in the United States, 42 million.
There's got to be four, and they're the ones that have reported the sighting, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not the ones that have been guests of the ETs or
no,
with their psychic stuff at 3 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, but that, when you put it into that perspective, you're like, that's a big difference to like 16%. You're actually millions. And on that note, where we're going to go now with that one is, we've spoken before about that you looked at when it was there was a dip in a period, and I wanted you to give us a general analogy for here in the UK, because we don't have anything like what you do in the UK, but you're most welcome to do it. We don't mind.
Okay. How
we've lost Chris. There's a techno with Chris. He's
I know. I saw his line freeze up. So
yeah. So could we touch upon now the period that you noticed and how you noticed there was a dip and what you think was happening?
All right. When we wrote our first book, 2001 to 2015, I had a lot of people come out of the woodwork and say, why didn't you go back 40 years? Okay. Well, the reason we didn't go back 40 years was because we already knew. I'd been writing my column for a couple of years. I knew the sightings before 2001 were actually maybe a fifth to maybe even maybe a tenth of what they were in 2001. So I for the second book. And also, people did not believe that I told them there was like a 6 to 8 year cycle, about a 7-year cycle. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down. In fact, if you look at it on a piece of paper, it looks like a little snake going across the lawn, right? And so the second book, we actually got the additional data from both services, just the magnitude. That's all we were interested in. And the average sighting over that period of time, give me one moment here, 150 divided by 40. The average sighting per year from 1960 to 2000 was about 350 per year. 2001 for us was like 4,500 sightings.
Wow.
Okay, so you can see, and people say, well, 13,150 sightings over 40 years. Wow, that's a lot. And I said, I got that many in 2012, 2013, 2014 here in the 20th century.
Yeah.
So I make the point. People keep telling me that, back in 1960, 1970, maybe back in the 50s. Oh, that was the golden age of UFOs. No, papers still reported local sightings.
Yes.
Since 1968 in the Condon report to Congress here, they have not. Baby, we are since 2001 to 2020, we are in the golden age of UFOs, 167,632 in the last 20 years. And the last 2 years have been going up like a rocket. So, baby, we are in the golden age of UFOs presently. And it's not only the United States, world UFOs are in coordination. They're going up as well. And personally, I think ET is back in spades, and I think they're getting the reason we're getting a lot of exposure with the government. I got a funny feeling ET's really upset with the fact that our ecology is about ready to tank completely. And I think they are really, really concerned for us in our health and welfare, as they say. So that's, I think, why this is, we're at that tipping point, and we've got to fix it, or something very bad is going to go down.
Yeah,
it's already going bad now, but it's going to get worse.
I just want to reiterate, guys in the UK, us lot here, the data that obviously that Cheryl's given us so far, which is outstanding. ET UFOs do not just visit United States of America. It's global, the whole earth. So we've really got to sort of even though we're not as big as the United States, we get that we're just an island somewhere, but it could show you the potentiality of the sightings here in the UK. I don't know how many sightings that have been collected here. It's not my field. I'm not the scientist in that way, but however, can we take the USA's magnificent sighting and the increase and constant every year and reflect it in a smaller version over UK? We would have that too, would we not?
I suspect so.
Yeah.
That cycle of that 6 to 7, 8 year cycle type of thing. It was measured. I measured that with some other people, and international data was mixed in with it. This was using National UFO Reporting Center data, and the international data was kind of mixed into the raw data, so it was included. The general consensus is something over 10,000 globally a year. I'd actually say it's probably about 15,000 globally per year.
Okay, right. So now we've gone all through that. We've got. I mean, I'm just got millions going on in my head.
Go ahead.
It really, when you put it out like that, it's different to percentage, Cheryl. Come on, it's millions and millions. And I think if that information was out in the general public and they read it as millions, it would change. I think it would shift a lot. I really do. It's a massive difference between 16% or 25%, then like all these hundreds of millions of people are seeing these sightings, and nobody is reporting it apart from yourself. That is.
Well, there are people. The problem is there's a very serious effort to keep people like me squashed down. Me and Linda have had it definitely. We've got people in the UFO community trying to squash us because they didn't like two old gay ladies doing this. And by the way, we can't. There were people saying
nothing to do with the data, but it's to do with
there was a lot to do with the data too. They didn't like the way they were yelling at us and screaming at us. Well, you're not field investigators, and I said, wait a minute,
okay.
Not everybody. Linda and I, we're old ladies. We don't like ticks. We don't like cow patties. We don't like barbed wire, and we don't like trudging around in the mud. We're kind of like Indiana Jones. We start in the library with a computer terminal.
Yeah.
Okay. And that we took a very scientific approach, and our idea was that we're going to take all of these people. Well, you didn't vet every one of them. I said, I'm going to take everybody at their word and say that 167,632 eyewitness accounts. And remember, eyewitness account will get you convicted in any court on this planet.
Yes.
Except for this topic matter. See, something's wrong there.
Yeah. I mean, I've pondered on that in the past. Because obviously I come from the background of criminology and, eyewitness testimony. But if you gave eyewitness testimony about this, it wouldn't be worth anything.
Well,
it would be nothing.
Okay, well, remember what the other aspect of the criminology is there. If you've got eyewitness testimony, the only defense you've got is to discredit the witness. And in terms of UFOs, kooks, nuts, and crackpots.
There you go.
And delusionals,
Yeah. However, that has slightly changed with your country and the disinformation and the control. This is my truth. Yes, they are real and we don't know. So that's an illusion. That's just keep on your way. We're not called crackpots no more, though, are we, Cheryl? Or delusionists or witches. They want to burn us because the Pentagon has said they're real. They're real, so they're real. However, we need to move past because for me, it's not about the Pentagon and the governments and the disclosures and it's about the experiences. It's about the data. Which is actually factual, proven data that you've got there. You've collated that from reputable sources, i.e., MUFON, and so it's all reputable data that all ufologists use anyway. Okay, but you're coming in, you and your wife, the scientific way, and you can break it down. I mean, you've expanded it, you've exploded it. I mean, I'm just going millions.
Okay, let me go there a minute. Basically, if people say, well, I've had a lot of people come to me and say, can we have your database? And they want to go in and read all the reports. I said, you can get that right off the National UFO Report. Just go to their website. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't do that with MUFON without being a paid member, but if you pay the $30, you can do that too.
Yeah.
In fact, the first thing we take out of the data when it gets transferred to us is the write-up. We don't need it. We're keeping
No.
what, when, where, what state,
Yeah.
what state, and what city, okay, or location. I make a clarification. Cities are governmental. Locations might be Joe's camping ground, okay,
Yeah.
or Lover's Leap or something.
Yeah.
And what shape and the time, okay. That's about all we keep. Now, we've built algorithms into the database that we wrote personally. That's our proprietary data. We went in there and we've been able to extrapolate additional information from crunching with these algorithms. So this last book, we were able to give you not only yearly data, monthly data, weekly data, what day of the week they peak, what seasons the shape. Do you know the shapes have seasons?
No, I didn't know that.
Nobody did. We generated this new book. The other one is we also plot the UFOs by hours of the day. 68, 72%. I'm going to do it like this. There's a peak over here between 4 o'clock in the afternoon and about 11:30 at night, with about 75% of it happening between 8:30 at night and 10:30 at night. The other 16 hours of the day only represent 25% or so of the sightings for an entire day. Now, here's a goofy question. I had Richard Dolan, he's a scholar on this stuff, last night asked me if I'd ever taken a look during the hours after about midnight to about 5 o'clock in the morning, because that's when most people who are overnight experiencers are touched by ET, whether psychically or a guest on board the ship. And I said, no, I had not. And when I looked at the chart, the data was really scant. But you know what happens with data when you graph it? If you got something really big on one side of the graph, it squashes everything else. Made it look like it was not even much bigger than the line at the bottom of the graph. I turned off that part, the part for the evening sightings, and suddenly the scale opened up, and I'm seeing all these peaks between 2 and 5 o'clock in the morning, which is golden time for the UFOs, getting into your nighttime REM sleep and things. And I did that this morning. I sat here all morning with about 4 cups of coffee going through these charts going, oh my gosh, I never knew that this was like this. And
I mean, it's you definitely bring a new perspective to ufology. And you take it, I think, where it's never been before. But before we end the show, I would like to rewind back to something that you stated, where you said why they're here and what we're doing to the planet. And it's like a warning's coming to the governments. What is your truth on that? What do you think's going on at the moment? Why we are having it's exponential, the sightings, the contact. What do you think? Everybody who's ever been touched by ET, okay, if they consciously remember the contact, they and what 3,500 of them with the free people over here, Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation people, okay, they were all coming in and saying, okay, this was my experience. Oh, by the way, ET left us with a message: take care of your planet. Okay, well, one of the drivers. I've got a colleague here in upstate New York. One of the secondary influencers is proximity to large bodies of water. Wow, we all sort of knew that, but he gave me 2 more: proximity to toxic ecosystems and proximity to active geological fault lines. He took our data from 2017 and started putting pins in a map on the wall. He just destroyed that wall in his house. And he found out that the ETs are loitering around our dead gas fields, our dead oil fields, our strip mines, dead mining towns, heavily polluted lakes, heavily polluted rivers, and there seems to be a predominance of UFO sighting reports in those locations. They're very concerned in how we are putting waste to our planet and not taking care of it. And now they for years, they had those kids in South Africa. They told them back in the 1960s, take care of your planet. I've seen that one, and I've never thought that was the most powerful documentary I've
Hi,
ever
Chris,
seen.
you're back.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
back.
yeah.
You're back. You got booted off.
Sorry,
But you're
computer
back.
shut down.
Oh, bless it. That's because Cheryl's on it, you see. It's all that energy.
Yeah.
Blame Cheryl. But you're back. At least you're back. So if we can, do you feel there are so many theories and no one knows the truth or whatever? But you did mention early on, they're giving a warning to the governments, of their presence now. And maybe that's why they did the what they call a misinformation disclosure. That's what I would say. Do you think that is the case at the moment, that it's if our world governments do not change in their approach to Earth, humanity, that they will do what? What do you think, Cheryl? What's your truth?
Well, okay, first thing, if people see a UFO, then it changes them. It starts expanding their view of reality. Okay.
It does.
Well, something my colleague Thomas W. Conwell, and you should have him on sometime. He looked at this and he came back to me and we talked at length. And it seems to be what we refer to as Project Ascension. If we show our people say to me, well, if they're capable of stealthing themselves, how come that we constantly are seeing them with all their lights on and everything? I said, I think they want us to see them because it changes us and it gets us thinking a different way. Yes. And I think they've been very between the people back Dr. John Mack, 30, 40 years ago, he said the number of experiencers were in the millions. Okay.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Yes, he did.
So even my number was saying 42 million just on the sighting was. We don't know how many people wrote Whitley Strieber's wife, that type of thing, So and so we think that number is very huge. Okay. And the bottom line is that I think by opening other people's eyes to this thing and not believing the lie the government's telling us, oh, it's just your imagination, they know darn well it's not our imagination. Okay. And they can't do anything about it. So they don't want to show their weakness that they can't do anything about it. Okay. And that's been the biggest problem. They've been lying to us for 70 freaking years. Yeah. It's like a bad marriage. Suddenly somebody who's been married for 50 to 70 years and you find out, oh, you've had a mistress for 70 years of our marriage,
I hear you.
What else you lying about, Yeah,
I hear you. I mean, I don't know if it's just my perception, but I think when it did come out, the disinformation disclosure, it was a phenomenon for our times. That's a first. It validated, UFOs, even though they tried to put it under military, calling it something else. I call them UFOs because if you give another name to a UAP, it's nothing to do with the UFO.
No, they're just trying to smoke and mirrors it,
Yeah, exactly.
Let me tell you what we did here. Linda and I did, and I started putting it together. And then Linda saw what I was doing and said, "Go get it." Okay. Here we have the House of Representatives, and we have the Senate. Okay, and our Congress. We put together a package that had our book, the Pink Book, with a very short cover letter with an executive summary on the front page, and said, "We are the civilian sighting experts. Call us if you have congressional hearings." But what we also put with it, Senator Rubio is from Florida. Florida is the number 2 state in the country for sightings, 11,000 in the last 20 years. So we printed them out. Cost me $20 downtown. But I went over to the print shop. They dumped it for me. It was 1.5 inches thick. Okay. And politicians in the United States like to know everything by postal code, right? So we made a printout of all the UFO sightings for 2001 to 2020 across the top, and the shapes and the numbers of those shapes for every single zip code in his home state of Florida. We did the same thing to a New York State representative who sits on the House Intel Committee, and we sent this to him and said, "Guys, we're the experts on this stuff. If you have sightings, call us." because that 144 sightings that the Navy had, oh, we're investigating it. It doesn't, it's a drop in the bucket. I've got that many in my county, for God's sakes,
Yeah,
you know.
no, I hear you. I mean, going, before we're coming to the close, but I got to say, Cheryl, when you've given us your life's journey, how you overcome, and I call you fearless. You've overcome so many obstacles. What you've done now, I'm sure you're going to be successful. And when the hearings do finally come around,
Taking out cuffs. I
yeah,
don't know.
well, we can send you sweeties, in the
There you
post.
go.
Don't worry,
There you
and
go. There you
you'll get a
go.
weekly telephone call. I'll be on the phone chatting to you. I'm sure you're going to be successful in what you do. And I would also, like to thank your wife as well. She's behind the scenes, a scientist.
She's
And
actually the brains of this operation. I just do the analysis work. I was trained to do that in the Navy. So I put the numbers together. I crunch the numbers, but she gives the scientific direction. Do it like this. So.
I was going to ask you, Cheryl, these sightings that they see where there's 42 million, have they all, what majority are seeing the same thing?
I don't know.
Don't know.
There's the reported sightings. There's quite a diversity on what shapes are seen the most,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I don't have that in front. I don't have that in front of me. But I'll give you an example. I know we're at the end of the show here. The a couple of weeks ago, they showed a video, infrared video from Navy from the USS Omaha in 2019. Okay. And it was a sphere UFO. You could see it crawling around out there. And I had a journalist from the West Coast call me up and says, "Hey, are sphere UFOs anything?" And I said, "Yeah, they're the number 3 silhouette reported." He said, "Well, how many of them?" I said, 17,150 in the last 20 years. And the guy about fell off his chair.
yeah.
He said, "We got that many." And then I gave him the big number. And he almost fell off his chair. And he said, "I'll come back and talk to you again." So there's interest by some people, but somebody up in the editorial area is being sat on by somebody in government, probably. Okay. So it's been crazy. I've reached out to 15 major newspapers and given them a map of UFOs by zip code, UFOs by county. Okay. I mean, it's almost all the counties except maybe 130 of them, that type of thing. And we've well over 3,300 counties. It's big. Nice. And we said, "Guys, I can show you all the UFOs in your state right down to the city level." Okay. In fact, if we printed all our data out, this is the important thing. If we printed it out, it would be probably about 60 centimeters deep, about 1.5 feet deep in American terms. Okay. We can't do that. In fact, the Pink Book, we only took it down to the county level. This is the next project. Linda and I are moving to another state for retirement purposes. But after we get settled, we're going to start our next phase of this project. We're going to do 50 individual state books with data right down to the local level.
Yeah.
Each of those books will be between 250 and 500 pages thick each. Okay. So there'll be 50 of those. And then we're going to do, there's 29 recognizable shapes between the two databases. We're going to produce a book for every single one of those shapes. There'll be 80 books along with these desk references and a couple of analysis books we're going to do on the side. That will be the largest collection of compiled, analyzed UFO sighting data in human history.
Yeah.
And Linda and I are going to toddle off into the sunset.
Well, you can't toddle off into the sunset.
No, we'll still do shows like this and everything, but we're not going to. We're going to stop publishing. But that's going to be our major contribution. The idea of doing 50 individual state books, you will not be the people who are trying to suppress us. You will not be able to Google the topic matter for your state and not hit our books.
Absolutely, I agree.
I'd just like to ask as well if I can, Cheryl. I know obviously you come from many different perceptions of background, don't you, with everything that you've done, your adventures. But you had the spiritual side, your priestess and the witchcraft and stuff like that. And then you had the UFO. What did it bring to your outlook, or did it shift a change in you? What change did it bring in you from going from, I don't know, seeing spirit, if you like, and things like that, to then seeing It's like, whoa, I'm seeing this craft here, or I'm seeing this unidentified object, or I'm seeing this, I don't know, alien that's just suddenly appeared in the room. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
What did it bring to you? Because I think because there's a transition that takes place in between the two with many people, and it can cause confusion. So I just wondered, from your point of view, what happened in that situation.
Okay, please remember I said in the beginning I was I was raised in a clairvoyant family, and we see the world very differently. And I realized in grade school, my school chums did not see what I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't that big a leap for me I was always this lady who was my wife. We got married in 2005. Okay. And I had 2 other marriages. She had 2 other marriages. And this was a unique thing. And we had to tell our friends at that ceremony, remember we said, don't ever let us get married again. This is why this is a good match. And my little write-up quite literally said, yes, I have informed her that I walk with 1 foot on Main Street and 1 foot in the Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I see a bigger world. The stuff with the UFOs does not rattle me. I've seen far more rattling stuff than this. I lived in a Buddhist monastery for 7 years. I'm an ordained yogi. I see things even deeper now than I did as a kid. And the bottom line is that the universe is teeming with life. We are connected to every single piece of it. We are one. They are one. Our oneness should be honoring and respecting the oneness in us to the oneness in them. And that's basically the bottom line. Doesn't matter what we look like, how we reproduce. We are all the same spark.
I love that concept. I love that.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, a beautiful analogy of it.
That's. I mean, we couldn't end the show better than that. So thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you very much.
It's been. I mean, I'm still getting my head around it. Okay. It will
Okay.
go on
Now, if people want to touch my books, go to Amazon. They carry our books exclusively. Amazon.com. Look up Cheryl Costa. Cheryl with a C. Costa with a C, and you'll see the 3 books. The white book is from 5 years ago. The UFO Beat was all my columns for the 7 years, and then the big pink book is the new book with all the latest and greatest data, and more books. Another 100 books are coming out in the next 2 years.
I told you she's fearless, Chris. It's been amazing, Cheryl, and I do hope you'll come back onto the show
anytime
and update us. And we may do a show just on your magic, actually. I'm 10. You know how senior priestesses, when they retire, are supposed to write a book about their approach to magic. I'm 10 chapters into mine. I technically retired back in December. So with my last class back in April, ended in April, I initiated everybody. But the deal is I'm 10 chapters in, and I wrote those 10 chapters in the past week. Boy, the magic writing just flows out of you. No writer's block. It just comes out of you. So when that's available to be published, I would love to come back and talk about magic.
Yeah,
absolutely. Just pure magic and that side of it. We'd love that, Chris, wouldn't we? We'd love
definitely,
that.
Let me know. Out as well.
This book is not about candles, crystals, oils, big spells, nothing. It's a completely different approach to magic. That's the running joke with one of my neighbors. He says, well, we know your magic works. How come ours doesn't?
No, we're going to do that. So, guys, again, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's mind-blowing, as I knew it would be. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And those that are going to watch this on a rerun later on, you might actually want to then stop it, listen, come back, stop it, listen, to absorb what's going on in your reality right now. Before we close, and glad you got back on, Chris. So
even I've been in the audience today.
I saw you. I saw you, but I was just like, I'm not. That's Chris. That's all right. I'm back with Cheryl. Yeah, you was in the audience. New experience for you. Look, these are live shows.
I was gutting the old computer just shut off.
That's all right. It's a live show. It happens.
It was a fascinating show, and I'm just. Well, there's probably
blown
more that
away.
we can get from you, but obviously we haven't got that time, have we? So
we haven't got the time because Cheryl's got so much. That is the problem. That's why I kept trying to cut it down, because I really wanted to get the data out there for people in the UK to hear about the data. It's really important that you realize this is not a one-off sighting, UK. This is massive. It's just that we have not been shown it by the media, or let's not go down that road. On that note, you want to say something, Cheryl?
One last thing. People are always saying to me, "Oh, aren't they going to come here and invade us?" And I said, "Oh, they could have done that 500 years ago. Come on, leave me alone on that one." I said, they most of them tend to be very benevolent. So I'm not worried about them doing that. If nothing else, I'm more worried about the fact that they're going to tell us, "Well, you hit your tipping point. Bye."
Well, I mean, we are responsible for our reality. Now I'm with you. No, then I've heard it as well. Are they going to invade? I said, don't be so stupid.
You know what I'm more worried about?
They would have done it way back when we were setting up nuclear bombs.
I'm less worried about them. I'm more worried about the Gulf Stream shutting down and England becoming the new North Pole.
Well, I won't be around then. I'll be off on the spaceship by then. I'm out of here. Yeah, exactly. I'm gone. Right. So, Chris, what we're going to do, we're going to put Cheryl back in the naughty room. Thank you so much, my love. Speak to you in a second. We'll be with you. By me and Chris, just say goodbye to everyone. It's been a fantastic show.
See you in a bit.
So, do you know how to do it, Chris? Have you forgotten? Oh, see, he's back. He's back. Well, that was the first show of season 2 of Open Minds. Awesome, as we promised it would be. Next Sunday, I'm not sure. I think it's 8 p.m. Don't quote me on that, but Chris will advertise it. Next Sunday, we have Yossi Rowan returning to the show, second time on the show, from Israel, and Yossi is going to bring the science into the experience. We're bringing more science next week, and we're going to talk about left brain consciousness and right brain consciousness. So it's going to be another deep show like today. So you don't want to miss it. You do not want to miss it. So he's going to speak of his theories and his understanding as what's happening with left brain consciousness to right brain consciousness with these experiences. That's going to be fantastic, isn't it, Chris?
Amazing, yeah.
We're bringing in the science now. On that note, we want to thank you. We are back with our technical problems as well. That's normal. It's live. It has to happen. You know what? I enjoyed seeing you in the audience.
I bet you did.
Yeah, he's in the audience. But you distracted me. I said, what's he doing in the audience? I was just so focused on Cheryl. Right then, Chris, you're the technical guy. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for all your comments. We do see them. Unable to respond while we're live with our guests, but we will look through them later. And thank you very much for joining us. And we'll see you next Sunday with Yossi, 8 p.m. UK time on Open Minds. Bye, everybody.
Good night from her.
And good night from him.
Bye.
Bye.